I can then give you an exact training program to really bump up your performance.
How do we do that? What do we do? I'm in.
So we're gonna be doing 2 tests. One test is the easiest test you'll have ever done in your life.
Okay.
And then the second test will be the hardest test you've ever done in your life.
All right, I got my running shoes on. Let's do it. Hey y'all, Brett Williams, men's health fitness editor here, and I am deep in my training for the New York City Marathon. I'm so excited to run the race in my hometown, and my main goal is to beat the PR that I set the last time that I ran a marathon. During my training, I've had a hard time keeping up the pace that I need to beat that goal. I get plenty of data from the fitness trackers that I wear every day, but I'm having a hard time using that data to hack my workout. Thankfully, I've heard of a next level fitness test that can help me do just that. I'm gonna head over to Bespoke Treatments where they'll be able to put me through the test so that I can find out what I need to know to boost my performance. Cam, I came here because you are a top PT focusing on performance, and I feel like I've hit a plateau in my training, and I want to know how I'll be able to use my body more efficiently.
So Brett, I know you're training for a marathon coming up soon. There's a lot of new technology that we can use to quantify your performance and your own physiology. Today, what I think would really benefit you is if we went over the Pnoe cardiorespiratory and metabolic analysis. With this test, I can see exactly what your body's using for fuel and where limitations are in 3 of your physiologic systems: your cardiovascular, your respiratory, and your metabolic. With those limitations, I can then give you an exact training program to really bump up your performance.
How do we do that? What do we do? I'm in.
So we're gonna be doing 2 tests. One test is the easiest test you'll have ever done in your life.
Okay.
And then the second test will be the hardest test you've ever done in your life.
All right, I got my running shoes on. Let's do it.
The first test we're gonna do is your resting metabolic rate test. We're gonna look at primarily what fuel sources you use at rest. So we wanna see the ratio between fats versus sugars. Sugars are mostly reserved for high intensity output work. So we wanna see when you're resting that your body's mostly using fats. This is a really good indicator of how healthy your metabolic system is. And then we'll get into the actual VO2 max test. This is a great test. It's the gold standard of cardiovascular fitness as well as illness. Now with this test, we're gonna start off with a 3-minute warm-up. This is to get a baseline.
Let's hop on up. All right.
And I'm gonna be looking for some key metrics on how you perform at low intensity. Then we're gonna get into the test itself. It's gonna be a 12 to 15-minute test where I'm gonna take you to your maximum heart rate. Throughout this test, again, I'm gonna look at how your limiters are at lower intensities, moderate intensities, and high intensities. So I can see exactly at each intensity what you need to work on.
Deep down, just breathe, try not to move, just breathe and recover.
I've been on pins and needles waiting to get the results from that test that we did, and they're in.
So what we found with you, you're a pretty big guy. Your lungs can take in about 5 liters of air. Now, we don't expect you to use those entire 5 liters when you're actually training, but we expect about 80%. What we found was you actually hit a peak of 2 liters. So you're not even using 50% of your total lung volume. That's why you have a lower respiratory capability score. So you not only hyperventilate, but you hyperventilate throughout all of your training zones. Even as intensity increases, your hyperventilation kind of waves up and down. So you're not very steady with how you're taking in air either. The biggest thing for you is getting a little bit more effective with your breathing volumes, slowing down your actually respiratory rate, and then learning how to use that while you're running.
There was some data about fuel sources.
Yeah. So when we look at the data, what we see with your increase in your actual tidal volume, how much air you're taking in, when you hit your peak, which is only at 120 beats per minute, what we see is your body's no longer bringing in extra oxygen for the amount of work it has to do. And so we actually see you start dipping into more of your carbohydrates earlier. We call that an early carbohydrate mobilization. What we want to see is actually using fats more effectively longer throughout your intensity. So at 120, we definitely expect you to be using a higher proportion of fats there. So we want to see, not so much through switching up your diet, but by actually changing your training, to change your fuel usage. You can improve this really easy. So I want to give you a simple prescription that you're going to do every week up until your race date. We have 2 breathing exercises and 1 coordination exercise. We want to get you using your volumes a little bit better. So we're going to do some diaphragmatic breathing in a 90-90 position. You're going to be lying on the ground, your feet are elevated. That's just going to get your rib cage in a better position for your diaphragm to move. From there, we're just going to have you take some deep breaths, working on mobilizing your entire rib cage when you're at an easy position. So it's just to get you a little bit more comfortable taking bigger breaths. Then we're going to do an exercise to open up your rib cage and your thoracic spine. So when you're actually running and you're rotating through those, you can still get in nice full breaths. Now the next piece is we actually want to work on the coordination of your breathing at your zone 2, because that's actually where your biggest limitation starts. So you're going to get a heart rate strap on, you're going to get into that 120 beats per minute, and then we're going to work on your breathing coordination. So you're going to set a metronome for 15 to 25 breaths per minute, and you're going to try and breathe in coordination with that metronome with nice full breaths. Now, this is not only going to raise your respiratory limitation, but it's also going to improve your already good metabolic system and cardiovascular system. So all 3 systems are going to get a bump from this.
I'm very excited to put this into place. I'm very glad that this system exists where we can find these things out, because I would never have known that I was not breathing properly and really wasting half of my oxygen efficiency. I appreciate you putting this plan up for me. This is the way that people can upgrade their training in the future.